Welcome to the Retirement Evolved podcast with certified financial fiduciary Adam Bruno.
It's been a long time, but we're finally back. And what a crazy couple months it's been, huh, Lauren?
Oh my gosh, it's been wild.
Wild is one word. So we don't need to go into all that. If you're a family that already knows us, you know what's been going on the last few months. And right now we're coming up on the end of the year. So we wanted to make sure that we had a couple of podcasts in the can here. Is it a can or is it's not a can?
In the bag.
In the bag. Okay. Wanted to make sure we had a couple podcasts in the bag to help out through the end of the year. And also take this time to introduce the third member of our podcast party now, Martha Wilson. Say hi, Martha.
Hi, guys.
All right. She's already a champ at this. So for those of you that don't know, the team has been expanding a little bit and we've been experimenting with, different team members. Martha was our banker at Chase and we love her. And we've told her for feels like 3 years now that she needs to be here with us. So eventually she separated from Chase and we chased her down until she finally agreed to work with us, which we're really super excited about. All of you, some of you have had a chance to meet her. The rest of you will. She's kind of the perfect mixture between Kurt and I, and everybody loves Kurt. So that's, we hope that everybody loves Martha too. And I expect that will happen. So Martha, why don't you, before we get into this week in history, why don't you share a little bit about yourself with everyone so they know who you are? And I know it's kind of like, tell us about you, but, hit the highlights for us. What kind of person are you?
Oh, man. So I have been in finance for over 10 years. It's my passion to help people. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. I have 2 little kids. I have a 2-year-old, 4-year-old, and my loving husband. If you don't see me at work, that's pretty much where I'm at. Besides that, like I said, anything that I could do to help, that's what I love to do.
Awesome. That's what we love to hear. And that was, I think the mission here has always been to educate and then implement, which is a big difference from what you see in any other firm in our area. Can't say enough about that. So why don't we get into it, Lauren? This week in history.
Week in history.
That's right. I need a little intro. Drum roll, please. 1888, the first issue of National Geographic magazine was published, and it became famous for its richly illustrated articles on the various geographic regions of the world. And as a little boy, I have to tell you, some of those geographic regions were tops optional. So I was kind of fascinated by all of the tribal stuff going on in National Geographic. I don't know. I think every little boy was. Yeah, I think every little boy was. That's fair. 1927, Gene Tunney successfully defended his world heavyweight boxing title by defeating Jack Dempsey after the controversial long count in the 7th round. I was not alive in 1927, but I have seen this story before about the controversial long count. So I don't think any of our families are probably alive in 1927 at this point. Do you?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think we have anybody close to 100 yet.
No.
I think we just lost somebody who was close to 100.
Yes, we did.
So she might have been alive.
She might have been.
Yeah, okay. 1994, the first episode of Friends aired on NBC. The show became one of the most popular sitcoms in the United States, except in the Bruno household. I never really got into it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was like after my dad would let us watch, Kramer, not on Seinfeld, but on CNBC.
Oh, yeah.
On CNBC. After we watched the stock market and the stock market closed, we were allowed to watch Friends or Seinfeld.
Oh, okay.
So that's why Kurt and I
wasn't crazy about either one of those. I mean, I had Seinfeld more so than Friends. What about you, Martha? Did you like Friends?
I only watched it like in high school, but I didn't really have it growing up, like childhood wise. I didn't watch it much.
Yeah, I know we're just coming off
Seinfeld, though.
Seinfeld's good. I think my favorite episode is obviously the soup Nazi, and then the one where George tries to bring the book back after he's had it in the bathroom.
Oh,
that book's been marked.
There's so many good ones. Many good ones.
So anyway, and obviously very sad, what happened to Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
And obviously celebrities seem to get the spotlight when they die, and somebody else could die in a hot tub and it's a tragedy, but it's not in the news. But I think with Matthew Perry, the most exciting part of his life was the journey to sobriety and a lot of the feedback that he had and the things that he did for people, which are just now coming out. Now, if you think you would hear about those things while somebody was alive, but of course you always hear about it when they're dead. So obviously condolences there to Matthew Perry, and a pretty amazing human being, So 2015, American baseball player, manager, and coach Yogi Berra, who won a record 10 World Series while a catcher with the New York Yankees and was known for his unintentionally amusing non-sequiturs, died at age 90. I was a big fan of Yogi Berra when I was a kid. I really liked, I read about him. This pretty amazing baseball guy. He also had that big gold catcher's chain that he would wear around with the catcher's mitt. That was pretty, that was pretty gaudy, but that's the kind of guy he was. So that's history, at least this week in history. So what now?
We got a little say what?
Say what? Okay.
In Mesa, Arizona, an Arizona man called a snake removal company after seeing what he thought were 3 rattlesnakes lurking in the garage of his Mesa home. He was wrong. There were actually 20 snakes, 5 adult Western Diamondback rattlers, and 15 babies. One of the adult snakes was also pregnant. Snake wrangler Marissa Maki found most of the rattlers coiled around the base of a hot water heater in the unidentified homeowner's cluttered garage Tuesday. The Western Diamondbacks, with their distinctive triangular-shaped heads, are found throughout the Southwest, and though their venom is far less toxic than other rattlesnake species, they still require care when being handled. This was a record for the most rattlesnakes caught on one call.
Holy cow.
Man.
Why'd you have to pick snakes? I hate snakes. I'm already crawling around here in my skin now. I hate snakes.
I see. I'm spiders. So no spiders.
Spiders.
Martha, spiders for you, Martha?
Yeah.
Yep.
Snakes for me. Ever since I watched Indiana Jones as a kid, I was terrified of snakes.
Sense. Yeah.
I was young and impressionable. All right, upcoming workshops. So first of all, Lauren, I think you did a great job planning all these. For those of you that don't know, Warren is no longer with us, and good luck to him. It's been a wild ride. He's been with us since the beginning, but it was time to move on. And so Lauren has really stepped in and taken care of all of our marketing and our planning for these events. And she planned out how to protect yourself from a potential tax storm. That's November 28th, 29th, and 30th at the Broadway Palm. We start right at 5 p.m. After the workshop is the show, Elf. And then, of course, the buffet is, we love the buffet there.
We love the buffet.
Great night out at the theater. It is filling up pretty quick. I think 2 of the nights are almost full. But of course, as always, if you hit our wait list, you will be the first ones we call for the next event. I think we are doing ALF again. So
yes.
Educational workshop. Really looking forward to this. Some new things on the tax laws now that we're starting to see 2024 on the horizon. We've gotten some new updates, things like that. Educational workshop December 5th and 6th, and that's at the Hilton Garden Inn, Fort Myers, and that's the corner of College Parkway in Summerlin. Start time is promptly at 11 a.m. Also, just a little bit about our events. We're going to be moving to a new format where we really need your feedback when you come to these events. It's become very important. There's always been some element of you giving us your feedback, what you learned, what you didn't learn, what you loved, what you hated. But now it's going to be very specific because we are coming into the new year, and that always brings new topics to these events. So we want to identify the topics that are going to help you the most. And we want to do that. And we always say it. We want to do it in your language rather than ours. We want you to be able to leave those workshops understanding exactly what's going on. So for the workshops, for anything else that you could possibly need to know in retirement, you can call us 239-771-8696. You can go to taxfreefortmyers.com, download a copy of my book, as well as a few other resources that are on that site. You can also register for any of our events that are coming up. At our homepage, evolutionretirementservices.com, there are 2 articles for Kiplinger that I wrote last year. I really wanted to get 2 more in this year, but doesn't look like that's going to happen, right, Lauren?
Well, there's always next year.
There's always next year, and that will be a priority for me. I know that I received a lot of feedback. The team and I are very grateful for that, very grateful that you love the articles. Unfortunately, there's only one of me to go around all day, and that's part of the reason why we're expanding a little bit, being able to be more efficient so everybody can do what they love to do. And of course, you know what I love to do. I love to do the podcast. I love to do the events. I love to write articles. I love to just be immersed in this culture. So that'll be happening in the future. So again, taxfreefortmyers.com, 239-771-8696. Feel free to ask for Kurt. He loves all your calls and your questions.
Oh yeah. Call Kurt.
Call
anytime.
Kurt. Absolutely.
Send him an email, Kurt@evoretire.com.
Baby. We did shorten the email addresses this year, which I thought was a big plus because it used to be evolutionretirementservices.com and you have to type out each of our names. Now it's just Evo Retire. So you could do info@evoretire.com, marketing@evoretire.com, Lauren@evoretire.com. So you always have a way to get in touch with us. There's never any pushiness or sales or anything like that. If you have a question, we'll answer it for you. It's that simple. All right. Speaking of questions, did you want to move right into the questions this week?
Let's move right in. Martha, you want to start us out?
Sure. So Mary 65 from Tampa, Florida said, "Hi, Adam. So when I decide to withdraw money from my retirement accounts, but don't need it immediately, what are some good options for storing it? Are CDs a suitable choice for these funds and earning some interest in the meantime?
Yeah, great question. And Martha, you could weigh in on this too after I have my moment in the sun here. But the reality is when you take money out from your retirement accounts, we all know what happens first. First and foremost, you're taxed. And that could be taking it out, doing a withdrawal. That could be your required minimum distribution or the RMD, right? You have to take out a certain percentage every year from all of your retirement accounts. The best way to realize how that works is you can add up all of the money that you have in IRA money, 401k money, anything that's been growing tax deferred. You add up that entire amount and then you divide it by 26.5. So when you're 73, that's the amount that you have to take out. The 26.5 number is interesting because I don't know how many of you realize this, but that number is based on the number of years that the IRS thinks you have left to live. So at 73, 26.5 is the average lifespan, I guess, is where they're calculating that from. Then it goes down every year. Now, when it goes down, that just means that you have to take more money out, right? So I think the question, and, very good question, Mary, when you take money out, whether it's an RMD, whether it's a withdrawal, you want to store it because you don't need it. Now, most successful families are in the same boat as you. I know a lot of our families that we serve, this is a boat they're always on. So what we've come up with, first of all and foremost, when you take the money out, if you do put it in a CD, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a 1099 at the end of the year. Say your CD paid you 5%. You're going to get a 1099 saying that you have to add that 5% growth to your income that year, and you're going to pay taxes on it, even if you didn't spend it. Now, think about that concept for a minute. You already paid taxes when you took it out, and now you're paying taxes on the growth as well. So that's where retirees get into a big kind of conundrum, and it usually doesn't happen until you're 73 and you're that RMD age. So the reality is, what do we do about it? Well, there's a couple things. One of the big things that we've seen our families do lately that's worked very well is we've used what's called municipal bond exchange traded funds, which is a variety of many different municipalities available in a fund. The nice thing about it, though, is since they're municipal bonds, it's all tax-free, the interest that you earn that year. So you're not taxed again on that money, which is very beneficial. So also, if you are going to store it, just keep in mind, if you're not using a municipal bond fund or something that's tax-free like that, you are going to have to just take note of what your income will be when you add that interest to your income. Because if you do go above, let's say, Mary, let's say you're single, if you do go above $97,000 in income, your Medicare Part B and Part D is going to go up significantly too. And for married couples, if you're married, Mary, see what I did there? That's good. Married, Mary. Married, Mary. If you are married, you have $194,000 of total income. But if you go above that by one penny, you're going to be paying more for your Medicare, which will drastically reduce your Social Security. So you have to be very careful. That's why this is such a great question. There's so many answers I can give you. The other thing that you can look into, if you are in a situation where you take it out, but you want to store it, like you mentioned, you could do some Roth converting throughout the year, and you could take that money. Say you took $10,000 out, take $10,000 out, pay the taxes on it, and then immediately put that $10,000 into a Roth IRA. Now, everything inside that Roth IRA grows tax-free as well. But again, you have to be very careful because if your income goes too high, when you take that money out, it gets added to your income. So it's a balancing act. That's why you really need advanced planning. So if you want to talk more about that, Mary, feel free to email us. There's not really an easy answer to that question. There's a couple things we can talk about, but no easy answer. Martha, you want to weigh in? I mean, what's your experience been like in the banking world when you see that happen?
I was actually going to ask you something. When I see this question, I wonder about the time frame. Can you tell me about those municipal bonds? Like, what does that look like time frame wise when people are storing this away? Like, what if she's saying CD to store it away for like 2 years or 1 year?
Mm-hmm. And just to touch on that, municipality means that it's a tax-free growth. Is that right?
So you're investing in a municipality. So because you're investing your money in a municipality, they're waiving the taxes on that, right? So to Martha's question, most of our ETFs are liquid. So you could take them whenever you want, but of course you just don't get the interest when you take it out, right? So it's always best to kind of leave it in there for the year, see what happens. If you want to take some out, sure, that's fine. But, just understand that you're using it as a tool to avoid paying paying taxes, right? Not evade taxes. You're doing everything legally. But the time frame on any of that can go from 1 year to 5 years. You can leave it in there as long as you want. The municipalities themselves, because it's in a fund, all you're doing is taking advantage of the municipal bond world, but you're not signing up for a municipal bond directly. So you're not time locked into a 5-year municipal bond or anything like that. Is that kind of what you were asking?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Because, again, when I look at Mary's question, I just wonder if she's storing it for a little bit. Maybe she wants like a vacation coming up like next year or what, because the CD kind of indicates, maybe I kind of want it locked away for now so I don't spend it.
Right.
But maybe I do want to spend it, for something.
Well, Martha, you know this, at a minimum, if you are going to pay the taxes on the growth, the minimum that I would do is I would rather use a money market account right now, because those money market accounts are paying very similar to CD rates, and it's completely liquid, right? So yeah, and you take it out, you don't get the interest, but I think the interest is credited daily on the money market. So if you are going to take it out and you want short term, that's a good option as well. Treasury notes are a great option right now too. They're paying but those are a little bit longer term, right? I think they're like, you could do like 6 month, 5 month, 3 month, whatever it might be. So the money market to me is still the winner out of all of that right now. When was the last time we could say that we were getting 5.5%, 6% in a money market? It's been a long time.
In my lifetime.
Fixed income it's been dead for a long time. And now I tell that story all the time, Lauren, right? First Niagara Credit Union, Niagara Falls, New York, I was getting 9%. And I thought that was great. That was in 1995 or 1996. And I thought that was amazing. But, even at that time, the banks, when I signed up for it, were like, oh, this isn't that great. I mean, they could remember when it was 12%, right? Or 13%. So we've had times like that. Will we get back there on this little run that we're on? I don't know. Kurt doesn't seem to think that this is going to last. And that's the other danger of this environment that we're in. A lot of families are getting comfortable putting everything into fixed income. And then when this ride is over, you're left with the now what feeling. Like now, you've gotten so used to getting 5 or 6%, which is really what people can survive on. And which is why I just read an article, the 4% rule is back. So the 4% rule is you could take 4% out of your retirement accounts and you have a 98% chance of not running out of money, right? 98%. So even when the 4% rule is at its height, you still have a 98% chance. Which one of you, Martha, Lauren, is going to get on a plane to the Bahamas, sit down, buckle in, get ready to take off, and the pilot comes on and says, it's beautiful weather, we got a clear path, and we've got a 98% chance that we'll get there alive? Like, are you staying on the plane? I mean, 98% is good odds, but the reality is this whole 4% rule, it's always been that way. And look how it worked out, right? Some of them were going by the 4% rule, and what would that have gotten us 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Sure. So, and I think is that why we do like the speed limit here?
Mm-hmm.
With Riskalyze and everything?
Yeah. The Riskalyze program for us is a way to identify exactly how you feel about risk. And if you're not having that done where you currently are, and it's not just Riskalyze, it's anything. If you're just talking to your advisor, here's my air quotes, right? If you're talking to your advisor and you've had 3 meetings with them, or even if you had 4 meetings with them, how are you supposed to know? How can that person know that, well, you're a moderately aggressive client, so we're going to there's no way to really know that or quantify that. And you have to be able to do that in today's environment. You have to be able to say, okay, this is exactly how you feel about risk. So the speed limit assessment with Riskalyze just tells us you answer 10 to 15 questions and it assigns you a speed limit from 0 to 100 miles per hour. So if you're 80 miles per hour, you are a moderately aggressive investor, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're 40 and your portfolio is going 70, then there's an issue, right? So always key to identify exactly, there's a psychology behind it, right? You have to know exactly how you feel before you get into the vehicle, before you jump on the interstate. If you don't want to drive 70 miles an hour, you shouldn't be on the interstate. And I think everybody in Florida should listen to me say that again, because a lot of you out there are driving 60 and this is 70, you're driving the minimum even. It's like, okay, people, get off I-75 if you don't want to drive 70 miles an hour. And that's okay.
Same thing for 41. The speed limit is not 41 on 41.
That's right. That's right. And you don't need to drive in the left lane the entire time. Like it's unbelievable. It's especially with season coming up. Come on, people. Let's be considerate. If you're out there and you're somebody that does that and you're arguing, well, I drive in the left lane all the time. There's nothing wrong. Yes, there is. There's something wrong with that. So got to get away from that. Anyway, that's what the speed limit test was designed for. That's what Riskalyze was designed for. When we design our journey, when we map it out for you, the retirement journey, we have a lot of different paths that you could take, right? And knowing what your speed limit is will tell us what path you're comfortable on. or what road to take, right? That's the key. So, all right. That's a good question, Mary. Married Mary. We're going to assume that Mary's married. So married Mary. Okay. What else you got?
I've got a couple.
All right.
Julie, 53, Fort Myers, Florida. Hello, Evolution. I listen to your podcast on my way to work every week. Love it. A couple questions for you. Do you suggest a fixed personal pension for those ready for retirement 3 to 4 years out? What is the best way to plan for long-term care in your investments? And can I plan on Social Security?
That's a lot of questions all rolled into one.
It is.
First of all, let me just say, Julie, we love you more. Okay. Thanks for listening. Obviously, our listeners, it's all grown, and if we haven't told you yet, make sure you hit the like, subscribe button when you're listening to us so you get alerts when the newest podcast is out. Okay. First of all, the first question, do you suggest a fixed personal pension for those ready for retirement 3 to 4 years out? So here's what we know about pensions. Pensions are pretty much guaranteed. Obviously it's based on the job you were in, the company that they set it up with, but most pensions are guaranteed. Now, most pensions, if they're good, will have a COLA or a cost of living adjustment. So your pension will go up by 3% each year to keep up with inflation, which is, inflation, it's very simple to explain inflation. Think about what you paid for your first house. My dad paid like $33,000 for our first house in the 1980s, right? And now if you want to buy a house, especially in Fort Myers, you're not getting away with one under 300 grand most of the time, right? So that's inflation. Everything's got a cost that goes up over the years, and that's a perfect example of it. So having a pension that has a cost of living adjustment is, to me, like having, two in the bush, right? Or two in the hand. What is it? One in the hand,
one in the bush.
I don't know how it goes, but it's definitely better to have a pension in that situation. A lot of people will rely on Social Security as their pension and will get greedy and say, okay, let me invest the rest of the money. The problem is in 2034, whether it happens or not, in order for the Social Security funds to survive, they really need to be cut by a third is the number that we're hearing. And they probably won't cut them. That's the problem. So Social Security isn't something that we can always rely on, but a fixed personal pension is. So can you plan on Social Security? Well, I don't think there's an answer to that question right now. Kurt and myself, I'm 42, Kurt's 31, and we don't plan on really ever being able to access Social Security in our 70s. If anything, it'd probably move into our 80s or something like that. You hope for the best, but you plan for the worst, especially when you talk about long-term care. Depending on your age, Julie, well, you're 53. I wouldn't suggest going out and looking for long-term care coverage. What I suggest is allocating a piece of your portfolio to long-term care planning. Maybe it's a little bit more aggressive, something like that. And then that's where you start spending the money first if you ever did need long-term care. The other thing to remember about that is we live in a world now where long-term care is no longer about being confined to a facility and 24-hour care and paying, $15,000, $17,000 a month over a 4-year period, and spending $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. And that's just for a 4-year period. Now we have services that come into the home, which most of our successful families, they want to stay at home. They don't want to go to
home health care is huge.
Right. Yeah. So those services can cost you anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 a month. So that's a huge benefit. So long-term care, I wouldn't be worried as much about as long as you plan accordingly. That does not mean you go out and buy a long-term care policy, because if you buy a traditional long-term care policy, you'll spend all this money paying into it, but there's no guarantee that you'll ever use it. And you might have heard me say this before, but Kurt and I have literally sat in front of families who have said, somebody's going down the stairs, we're using this policy, right? It's just, they don't want to lose the money. So don't put yourself in that situation. The only other thing I would say about pensions is most people think that they don't have the ability to create a pension for themselves. There is, in the insurance world, ways for you to create a pension, but I can't stress this enough. You really have to be the right fit for that. Okay. You don't want to take $500,000 of your money if that's your investable asset level. You don't want to take all $500,000, put it in an annuity with an insurance company and tell them, write me a check for the rest of my life, because most annuities do not have a cost of living increase. So they have to be structured accordingly. Like, for example, in this area, a lot of people just take the whole amount, put it into an annuity, and that's it. If they were smart, they would take the money, take a chunk of it, put it into an annuity, and we're planning on turning it on this year. Take the other chunk, put it in a separate annuity. Let's turn it on 5 years later, just to make sure, because that's the only thing that's the drawback with creating your own pension is you don't always have a cost of living increase. And that's really hard to navigate. So I don't know if any of that helps, Julie. I try not to rant, but hopefully all that wisdom will be able to help you in some way.
Great.
What else you got,
Julie?
Lauren?
Robert 60, are reverse mortgages worth doing after retirement? And what are the effects on heirs after death?
Yeah. So the thing with fixed mortgages, reverse mortgages.
Reverse.
Yeah, we're already in fixed mortgages. Come on, Adam. Reverse mortgages, it used to be the joke, right? You'd see William Devane or one of those guys on there pitching, one Hollywood actor pitching reverse mortgages. One of my favorites, Tom Selleck, he's on there pitching reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages are a tool that you can use to create an income for yourself. That's what it's designed for. Now, how it affects your heirs, well, you're really signing over, your property to somebody, to a bank, and the bank is going to give you a fixed, and you could end up going well past what your house is worth, but they're still going to write the check for you, which is nice. So your heirs, you should only really consider a fixed reverse mortgage if you are not planning on leaving that property to your heirs, because that's probably not going to happen. They're probably not going to get that or get anything from it, but it is a good tool that you could potentially use for long-term care. Martha, you got any feedback on reverse mortgages? You've been in the banking world.
I don't know. I've gotten that question before and I really couldn't answer that one. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
You are signing your house away.
Right.
That's a tough decision.
I think that's tough for anybody, especially if you've gotten to a point where the house is paid off even. It's like, wow, so spend the equity now or leave it for the kids. Obviously, if you have no other choice, you want to find a reputable company first and foremost. You don't want to go with Billy Bob's reverse mortgages, right? You want to find a company that's reputable, and really a company that only does reverse mortgages is probably the best way to look at it. So what else you got, Lauren?
Actually, I was going to let Martha do this one.
Okay, so this one says, I retired in June. My 401k is actively managed by Fidelity. It's about $1.25 million. I asked my rep about doing Roth conversions, and he suggested I consult my accountant, which I don't have. So shouldn't Fidelity help me with this? How many people do I need to pay to help me manage my money? I'm confused. Thanks for the insight. Wow, I will say just really quick, this is not the first time I've seen this, so... Go ahead.
No, well, Martha, and I'm sure the next thing you would have said is all of these financial institutions that are retail, like a Fidelity, like a Schwab, they're going to tell you, well, we don't give tax advice.
That's right.
Because Roth Conversions is technically tax advice. We keep 2 CPAs on retainer here that we partner with, as well as 2 estate planning attorneys, because we don't want you to have to pay 3 separate people to try and figure out what retirement looks like. So the answer to that question is Roth conversions could work depending on what your numbers are. You have to know the numbers, right? On 1.25 million, it comes down to questions like, are you planning on spending your RMDs? Do you need your RMDs? Because if you reinvest your RMDs, that's a whole other set of taxes that you're going to have to pay. And when you add all that up, plus what your kids are going to have to pay on that IRA, when you add it all up, it's a significant amount of money. Say that you live till 90, which is what we run the report for, to kind of show you if you live till 90, if your investments only earn 5%, if you're in the 22% tax bracket, try and run it very conservatively. Most families in your situation, if you answered no to spending the RMD, you're going to be able to save a significant amount of money by doing Roth conversions. I'm not going to commit to that for your particular situation just because we don't have enough information, but shouldn't Fidelity help you with this? Of course. Anybody who is an advisor should be able to at least answer questions about it. They shouldn't just pass the buck to somebody else. So that's why our services and our planning, it's just above and beyond, and why our families love us so much and we don't lose our families, because this is something that's addressed every quarter in our quarterly reviews. What do we look at? How much conversion should we do? So yeah, well, I think our time's almost up here. Time flies while you're having fun.
Time flies while you're having fun.
Yeah. So if you haven't yet, definitely like, subscribe. If you have other questions, this is, I think we're going to have to start focusing more on the questions now because they keep rolling in as we've been doing this now. And after being away for about a month from doing the podcast, we just had a ton of questions. So if we didn't get to it this podcast, we'll get to it the next one, I promise. Again, when we talk about Roth conversions, taxes, estate planning, those are things that should be in the front of your mind rather than house my investment performance. I don't know how many times we need to say it, but your performance doesn't matter in retirement. At this point, if you woke up and your accounts had 20% more in them, great, but if you woke up and your accounts lost 20%, that could significantly impact your lifestyle. So you have to ask yourselves the questions, and this is the hard question, and you all know that I say this multiple times. The hard question is, what do we want this money to do for us? What are our goals?
What are your goals?
What are the goals? You need a goal-based retirement.
What is your vision? What is your vision looking forward?
That's exactly it. Not a performance-based retirement, a goal-based retirement. So we're going to get on out of here. But before we do that, one more time, taxfreefortmyers.com, 239-771-8696, and evolutionretirementservices.com. And you can email any of us, even Martha, Lauren, or Adam at evoretire.com. Until we get to come across your platform again, we wish you nothing but the best. God bless everyone, and we'll talk soon.
God bless.
God bless.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Investment advisory services are offered through Evolution Wealth Management Incorporated, an investment advisor registered with the state of Florida. Registration does not imply any level of skill or training. Evolution Wealth Management's unique CRD number is 307644. You can obtain a copy of Evolution Wealth Management's firm brochure, Form ADV Part 2A, free of charge by visiting advisorinfo.sec.gov. Evolution Wealth Management offers investment advisory services only, where it is appropriately registered or exempt from registration, and only after clients have entered into an investment advisory agreement confirming the terms of engagement and have been provided a copy of the firm's ADV Part 2A. Insurance services are provided by Evolution Retirement Services. Any guarantees mentioned are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and may be subject to restrictions, limitations, or early withdrawal fees, which vary by the issuer. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. You should consider the charges, risks, expense, and investment objectives carefully before entering a contract. This material has been prepared for informational purposes only and should not be construed as a solicitation to affect or attempt to affect either transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. This material is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, accounting, or other financial advice. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services are affiliated entities.